Hi dear, welcome to your favorite audiobook channel, Wisdom Flicks. Introduction: The Power of Withdrawal. There comes a quiet moment in everyone's life when the soul whispers, step back, not out of anger, not out of resentment, but out of clarity. It is in this moment that you begin to sense a sacred truth, that your availability is a gift, not a guarantee. That your constant presence in other people's lives does not define your worth, your love, or your identity. It's just a habit, one that may be costing you more than you realize. You see, most of us have been taught the opposite. We've been raised to believe that being always available, emotionally, mentally, physically, is a sign of strength, a sign of love, a sign of responsibility. We answer every call. We reply to every message. We say yes even when our soul is screaming no. We show up over and over, often forgetting to show up for ourselves. And yet something strange happens the more we do this. We begin to feel invisible, drained, misunderstood. It's as if the more we give, the less we are seen. Why? Because when you make yourself endlessly available, you become common. Not because you are less valuable, but because what is always within reach is often taken for granted. This is not a reflection of others' malice. It's a reflection of human nature, and this is where the power of withdrawal comes in. Withdrawal is not rejection. It's not punishment. It's not a cold silence or passive-aggressive absence. It is an intentional pause, a deliberate return to self. It's where you pull your energy back, not to deprive others, but to rediscover your own presence, your own voice, your own rhythm. Carl Jung, the renowned Swiss psychiatrist, spent much of his life exploring the depths of the unconscious mind. He believed that true transformation doesn't come from pleasing others or following the crowd. It comes from turning inward, meeting the parts of yourself that you've ignored, abandoned, or sacrificed in the name of approval. In Jung's world, withdrawal wasn't weakness. It was initiation, a call to explore the unlit corridors of your mind and soul, a chance to confront the false selves you've worn just to belong, a moment to begin again, not as who the world expects you to be, but as who you truly are. This book is your companion in that journey. It's not about becoming distant or cold or unavailable to love. It's about becoming deeply available to yourself, so that the love you offer others is no longer laced with exhaustion, resentment, or fear of abandonment. It's about understanding that availability without boundaries is a form of self-neglect, and that every time you say yes to someone else, you are also saying yes or no to something inside you. In the chapters ahead, we will explore why you feel compelled to always be available and where that pattern began. The hidden psychology of being needed and how it ties to your self-worth. Carl Jung's teachings on shadow work, identity, and the power of solitude. How boundaries aren't just protective, they're powerful, magnetic, and transformative. And most importantly, how withdrawing doesn't mean disappearing. It means reappearing as your truest self. The truth is, when you stop being available, everything changes. People begin to notice your absence and your presence. Your energy becomes refined, intentional, respected. You stop chasing connection and start cultivating alignment. You stop proving your worth and start living from it. This book is an invitation, not to run from the world, but to return to yourself, to learn the sacred art of retreat, not as escape, but as rebirth, to withdraw not in silence, but in wisdom. So, take a deep breath and take one step back, not to lose yourself, but to find yourself again. Welcome to the power of withdrawal. Welcome to your becoming. Chapter 1. Understanding availability. What are you really offering? Let's begin with a question that might seem simple at first glance, but carries a profound depth. What are you really offering when you make yourself available to others? Is it your time, your presence, your energy, your emotional labor, Or something deeper? Perhaps your identity, your self-worth, even your validation? Most of us don't stop to examine this. We say yes without thinking, answer messages within seconds, pick up calls late at night, and rearrange our schedules just to prove, subtly or not, that we're reliable, helpful, loving, needed. But here's the truth. Being constantly available isn't generosity. It's self-abandonment disguised as kindness. The silent agreement without ever saying a word. We enter into silent agreements with the people in our lives. These agreements say, I'll be here for you whenever you need me. You come first, I'll figure myself out later. If I keep showing up, maybe I'll be worthy enough for love, appreciation, or approval. This pattern of constant availability often stems from unconscious conditioning, what Carl Jung might describe as the complexes formed in childhood. A child who only received affection when they were useful grows into an adult who feels loved only when they're available. And so we begin to equate availability with value. But here's the danger. When your value becomes tied to your availability, you forget your true worth. You become a product of others' needs rather than the author of your own life. Availability is a form of identity. Let's think of availability not just as a behavior, but as an identity. A mask you wear. Maybe you're the dependable friend, the always-there sibling, the employee who never says no. You might even feel proud of being the reliable one, the person others can count on. But who are you when you're not needed? Who are you when you're not performing that role? Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And here's the catch. You cannot become who you truly are if you're constantly performing for others. The moment you stop being available, you confront a quiet truth. Your identity isn't rooted in how many people you serve, but in the inner knowing of your being. The currency of energy availability isn't free. You pay for it with your time, your energy, your peace of mind. And if you're not careful, you start to run a deficit. You give more than you receive. You deplete yourself trying to keep everyone else full. Energy, like money, is a currency. Spend it wisely. Jung believed that inner balance is essential for psychological health. If you're overextending yourself, giving away your energy without replenishment, you create an imbalance in your psyche, a split between who you are and who you're pretending to be. Eventually, this shows up as burnout, resentment, anxiety, or even depression. Your soul begins to whisper, enough. The illusion of control. Many of us stay constantly available because we fear losing control. We believe that by staying involved, by always answering, always showing up, we can hold on to relationships, jobs, friendships, or even love. But this is an illusion. True connection doesn't require constant access. In fact, real respect grows in the space between interactions. Love deepens when it's given room to breathe. Jung spoke often of the tension of opposites, how growth emerges not from clinging, but from balancing. Light and shadow, attachment and release, engagement and retreat. So when you withdraw your availability, you're not creating distance, you're creating depth. The unseen message of overavailability. Every behavior is a message. When you're always available, even when it's inconvenient or draining, you may unconsciously be sending a message that your boundaries are flexible, your time is disposable, or your needs are secondary. Over time, others start to believe it, not because they're unkind, but because you've taught them how to treat you. And what's worse, you start to believe it too. You begin to internalize the belief that you're only lovable when you're useful, that your worth is conditional, that your voice, your rest, your dreams must wait their turn. But you were never meant to be anyone's emotional crutch. You were never born to live in reaction to the needs of others, breaking the pattern. So how do you begin to break free from this cycle? Start small. Start by not responding immediately. Pause. Reflect. Ask yourself, do I want to engage with this, or do I feel obligated? Then start setting boundaries, not as walls, but as expressions of self-respect. You're not cutting people off. You're inviting them to meet the real you, the one who has limits, preferences, and value beyond what you can do for them. Jung encouraged us to explore the unconscious, to bring light to what's hidden. In this case, it means examining the invisible motives behind your yeses. Are you saying yes from love or from fear? Are you giving because you want to, or because you're afraid not to? The first step to real change is awareness, a new kind of presence. When you stop being always available, something incredible happens. Your presence becomes intentional. Your yes carries weight. Your energy becomes sacred. People notice. They might resist at first. They may test your new boundaries, but over time they begin to respond to the real you, not the always there, always pleasing version of you, and you too begin to change. You become more peaceful, more aligned, more powerful. In your stillness, availability no longer becomes your identity. It becomes a choice, and that is freedom. Chapter 2. Carl Jung's Shadow Work. Discovering your hidden self. There is a part of you you rarely speak about, not because you're hiding it deliberately, but because you've never truly met it. It is the part that holds your fears, your suppressed desires, your pain, your raw instincts, the side of you that doesn't smile for approval or conform to expectations. Carl Jung called this part the shadow. Jung believed that the shadow is not evil or bad. It is simply rejected. It is everything you have pushed aside, ignored, or denied in order to fit into the world around you. And ironically, this hidden self often holds the key to your power, your authenticity, and your peace. But here's where it gets interesting. Your tendency to always be available, to always say yes, to always be present for others, is often not a conscious decision. It is driven, quietly and persistently, by your unconscious need to be accepted. And where does that need live? In the shadow. The birth of the mask. From childhood, we learn to wear masks. If you were praised for being helpful, polite, obedient, or selfless, you learned to build an identity around those traits. These traits became your ticket to love and safety. But what happened to the parts of you that didn't earn praise? They were tucked away, into the shadow. Maybe you were told not to cry, not to be selfish, not to speak too loudly, not to take up space. So you became agreeable, always available, always useful, always good. And so a subtle split occurred. The parts of you that won approval became your persona, the mask you wear in public. The parts of you that were shamed or ignored were sent into exile, into your shadow. But Jung warned us, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. So long as you don't explore your shadow, you will repeat the same patterns, always giving too much, always feeling unseen, always searching for validation in the wrong places. The pleaser's shadow. Let's talk about one of the most common shadow identities, the pleaser. The pleaser wants to be liked, needed, valued. On the surface, this seems kind, generous, noble. But underneath, there is fear. Fear of rejection, of being unloved, of being irrelevant. The pleaser often makes themselves endlessly available, not from abundance, but from a silent scarcity. They believe, if I am always there for others, maybe someone will finally be there for me. But here's the tragedy. The more you abandon yourself to be there for others, the further you drift from your own truth. And your shadow watches, quietly, patiently, waiting for the day you come back to reclaim it. The gifts of the shadow. Here's the revolutionary truth Jung taught us. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is a reservoir of untapped strength. What if that assertiveness you repress is actually the confidence you need? What if the anger you suppress is the boundary you must set? What if the selfishness you avoid is actually self-respect in disguise? When you begin to work with your shadow, you no longer need to be everything to everyone. You no longer confuse love with sacrifice. You stop trying to be the good version of yourself, and instead, become the whole version of yourself. You begin to understand that no is a full sentence. That silence is not rejection, that your needs are not a burden, And suddenly your availability becomes intentional, not compulsive. You choose when to give, how to show up, and for whom, not out of fear, but from clarity. How to begin shadow. Shadow work is not a one-time event. It's a lifelong process. But every journey begins with awareness. Here are simple ways to begin. Notice your triggers. The people or situations that irritate you the most often reflect a rejected part of yourself. Ask, what is this really about? Observe your compulsions. Do you say yes before you even think? Do you feel anxious if you don't respond immediately? These are clues. Slow down, breathe, get curious. Write to your shadow. Ask it, what do you need from me? What have I been ignoring? You might be surprised at what comes up. Forgive your past self. You were doing the best you could with what you knew. Shadow work is not about shame, it's about integration. Practice saying no, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Every no you speak with love strengthens the yes to your soul. Reclaiming the hidden self, Jung believed that healing requires integration, not perfection. That means bringing all parts of yourself into the light, not just the polite, available, presentable ones. When you embrace your shadow, you become whole. When you become whole, you no longer perform to earn love. You simply embody it. You stop being reactive and start being real. You stop running on autopilot and begin living with intention. And people notice. They feel the shift in your energy. They sense your boundaries. They respect your time, your space, your soul. Not because you shouted, not because you explained, but because you withdrew from the performance and returned to the truth. In the end, the greatest act of love is not in making yourself constantly available. It's in making yourself fully present, fully alive, and fully you. And that begins with the courage to look inward. Chapter 3. The Archetypes of Identity. Who are you when you're not needed? Imagine this. The phone doesn't ring. No one is asking for advice. No one is expecting you to solve their problem, fix their mistake, or listen for hours. It's just quiet. How do you feel? Relieved? Restless? Useless? That moment of stillness is often more revealing than 1,000 conversations. It forces you to confront a question most people avoid their whole lives. Who are you when you're not being needed? We live in a world that praises usefulness. From a young age, we're taught that our value lies in what we can do for others. Be helpful, be responsible, be strong. Be the fixer, the nurturer, the provider, the one who holds it all together. But rarely, so rarely, are we taught how to simply be. Carl Jung, in his exploration of human psychology, introduced the concept of archetypes, universal patterns, or roles that live deep within the collective unconscious. These archetypes shape how we see ourselves and how we engage with the world around us. They are the stories we live without even realizing it. In this chapter, we'll explore how certain archetypes, especially those that revolve around being needed, can become traps, and more importantly, how we can begin to release these roles and reclaim our deeper, truer identity. The caregiver archetype, the saint in disguise, one of the most dominant roles people unconsciously live through, is the caregiver. The caregiver is noble, generous, and self-sacrificing. This archetype says, if I can make your life easier, better, safer, then I matter. At first glance, the caregiver seems admirable, and in many ways, it is. But when this identity becomes the core of who you believe you are, it slowly turns into martyrdom. You begin to feel guilty for resting, ashamed for having boundaries, anxious when no one needs you. The result? Burnout, resentment, and an unspoken longing to be cared for too. Jung would remind us, an archetype is a pattern, not a prison. You can honor the loving part of you without becoming a slave to it. You are not just someone who gives. You are also someone who deserves to receive. The hero archetype. The silent rescuer, Another archetype that often emerges in people who struggle with over-availability is the hero, the I. Hero is strong, determined, and dependable. They carry burdens no one sees, take on challenges others avoid, and wear their emotional armor with pride. But underneath the hero's cape is often a tired, lonely soul who doesn't know how to ask for help. Heroes often fear being seen as weak. So, they stay available at all times, ready to jump in, ready to fix, ready to carry others, no matter the cost. But what the hero must learn is this: you don't have to prove your strength by suffering in silence. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is rest, or say no, or fall apart without guilt. You are not what you save. You are who you are, even when you save no one. The lover archetype. The emotional giver. Then there's the lover, an archetype driven by connection, intimacy, and emotion. The lover wants to be close, to feel needed, to merge with others in deep emotional exchange. This archetype often manifests in people who feel they must always be emotionally available, always ready to listen, to soothe, to hold space for others, even at the expense of their own well-being. But here's the danger. The lover may confuse connection with codependency. They may think, if I'm not emotionally available 24/7, will I be abandoned? Carl Jung taught that the lover must learn individuality, to love without losing themselves, to be present in relationship, but also whole in solitude. You are not your emotional labor. You are not your ability to hold others. Your love is real even when you take space. The orphan archetype. The abandoned inner child, often hidden beneath the surface, is the orphan, the part of you that once felt left out, unseen, unprotected. The orphan archetype often drives people to become overly available as a way to avoid being abandoned again. The unconscious thought is, if I'm always there for others, they won't leave me. If I'm always useful, I won't be forgotten. But in trying so hard to be needed, you neglect the one person who needs you most: yourself. Healing the orphan means nurturing your inner child, reminding yourself again and again that your worth is not based on performance, that your presence is enough, that even in solitude you are held. The risk of living through a single archetype. Each of these archetypes, the caregiver, hero, lover, orphan, are part of you, but they are not the whole of you. When you become stuck in one role, you limit your identity. You start believing that unless you're playing that role, unless you're helping, fixing, giving, pleasing, you don't have value. But that's a lie. You are allowed to be unavailable. You are allowed to rest. You are allowed to exist outside of usefulness. The world won't collapse if you take a break. And if certain relationships do fall apart when you stop being constantly available, then maybe those connections were built on your exhaustion, not on real love. The true self. Beyond archetypes, Jung believed that the goal of psychological growth is individuation, the process of becoming your most authentic self. Not a mask, not a role, not a persona, but a full integrated human being. Individuation happens when you stop identifying with any one archetype and begin to explore all of who you are. You become someone who can help, and someone who can say no, someone who can give, and someone who can receive, someone who can love, and someone who can leave when love becomes self-abandonment. You become someone who doesn't need to be needed in order to exist. The sacred shift, from being needed to being whole. Here's what changes when you stop basing your identity on being needed. You reclaim time, energy, and mental space. You stop chasing validation and start living in alignment. You discover who truly values you, not just your availability. You begin to feel safe in your own presence. And most importantly, you remember this: you were never born to be a role. You were born to be real. Let the masks fall. Let the old patterns dissolve. Let the archetypes teach you, but never limit you. In the silence that comes when you are not needed, you will finally hear your own voice. And in that voice, you will find the beginning of freedom. Chapter 4. Energetic Shifts. The Psychology of Pulling Back. There's a moment when you stop chasing. You don't send the text. You don't offer to help. You don't fix what isn't yours to fix, and everything shifts. That moment is not cold. It's not angry, it's energetic. There is a quiet power in no longer throwing your energy toward people, places, and situations that drain you. It's the moment you realize your energy is not infinite and your availability is not free. Let's dive deep into the psychology behind pulling back, not out of bitterness, but out of wisdom. The invisible currency. Your energy, we all understand. Time. We all understand money. But we rarely talk about the most precious currency we carry, our energy. Your energy is your attention, your emotions, your mental bandwidth, your physical presence. It's what you give when you listen, when you care, when you show up. Now here's the truth. Energy is limited, and not everyone deserves it. When you give without discernment, when you are constantly available, constantly responsive, constantly open, you end up depleted. Not because you're not strong, but because you're not designed to be limitless. Psychologically, over-availability creates an unconscious pattern. People start to see your energy as a given, not a gift. And you begin to lose the most valuable thing of all, yourself. The trap of constant output. Have you ever noticed how some people always expect you to be available? It didn't start that way. At first, it was gratitude, appreciation, maybe even admiration. But then something changed. What was once appreciated became expected. What was once generous became routine. And when you didn't show up, guilt, frustration, blame. This is the psychological trap of constant output. When you are always giving, others stop reciprocating. Why? Because you've trained them not to. This isn't about blaming others. It's about waking up. You've unknowingly set the tone. You've communicated, my time is yours. My energy is available. My boundaries are flexible. But the good news? You can change the tone. By shifting your energy, you shift your dynamic. Pulling back is not punishment, it's protection. When you begin to pull back, you may fear that you're being cruel or distant. But pulling back is not about withholding love. It's about reclaiming sovereignty. There's a difference between being emotionally supportive and being emotionally enmeshed. There's a difference between being kind and being compulsively self-sacrificing. Pulling back is saying, I love you, but I won't abandon myself to be close to you. I care, but I won't sacrifice my peace for your comfort. I'm here, but I'm no longer overextending to hold what isn't mine. It's not selfish. It's self-respect. And here's the magic. When you stop overextending, the true connections rise. The ones that love you, not your labor. The ones that respect your no as much as your yes. Energetic balance. The law of reciprocity. Carl Jung often emphasized the importance of integration, the balance of opposites within the psyche. One such balance is giving and receiving. When you only give, you become lopsided. You feel resentful, invisible, and emotionally bankrupt. Psychologically, this creates a pattern of overfunctioning. You start doing the emotional and relational work of two people. You anticipate needs before they're spoken. You clean up messes that aren't yours. You stay longer than you should because someone might need you later. But here's what you must remember. You teach others how to treat you by how you treat yourself. When you start pulling back, lovingly, firmly, consistently, you reset the equation. You invite others to step up. You allow space for reciprocity. And you discover which relationships are strong enough to adapt, and which ones dissolve when you stop carrying the weight alone. The power of the pause, a moment of silence, can say more than 1,000 words. When you stop responding instantly, when you stop explaining yourself over and over, when you stop rescuing every situation, people notice, and the dynamic changes. This is the power of the pause. The pause invites others to reflect, recalibrate, and take responsibility. It removes you from the role of constant caretaker and places the energy back where it belongs. And perhaps most importantly, The pause gives you a moment to breathe, to check in with yourself, to ask, do I truly want to give here, or have I just been conditioned to? That question alone can change your life. How to pull back with grace. Here are a few powerful ways to shift your energy without creating conflict. Delay your response. You don't owe anyone instant access to your time or thoughts. Silence is a boundary. Say, let me get back to you. It creates space. It communicates that your attention is intentional, not automatic. Stop over-explaining. You're allowed to say no without a novel. Respect doesn't require justification. Be unavailable sometimes, let your absence speak. You are not a 24/7 emotional service. Check your motives. Are you giving from love or from a fear of disconnection? Each time you pull back from an unconscious pattern, you make room for conscious presence. And that is where real power lives. The eyes, energetic shift others. Feel when you change how you show up, others feel it. Even if you never say a word, you'll notice. People who once took you for granted may suddenly reach out more thoughtfully. Conversations become more balanced, less one-sided. Some people may drift away, and that's okay, let them. And most of all, you feel lighter, stronger, calmer. Why? Because your energy is no longer leaking. It's circulating. And energy, once reclaimed, becomes clarity. It becomes presence. It becomes peace. You are not a resource. You are a soul. You are not here to be mined, managed, or maintained for others' benefit. You are a full human being, with needs, with limits, with sacred rhythms. When you pull back, you're not disappearing. You're reappearing to yourself. You're saying, I'm no longer available for emotional extraction. I'm no longer available for one-way relationships. I'm no longer available for people who only reach out when they need something. And in doing so, you are choosing depth over performance, presence over productivity, wholeness over people-pleasing. This is your energetic shift. Not loud, not dramatic, but utterly life-changing. Chapter 5, Self-Worth and the Mirror of Availability. Have you ever noticed how the way you make yourself available to others often reflects how you feel about yourself? There's a mirror hidden inside your patterns of availability, one that reflects your sense of self-worth back to you. In this chapter, we'll explore how your availability is not just about others. It's deeply tied to how you value yourself. And we'll uncover how shifting this inner relationship can transform everything about how you show up in the world. The hidden link between availability and self-worth. On the surface, being available seems generous. It feels like kindness, compassion, and strength. But beneath the surface lies a critical question. Are you available because you want to be, or because you feel you have to be? Many people become endlessly available because their self-worth is tangled up with external validation. They think, if I'm needed, then I matter. If I say yes, people will like me. If I don't help, I'll be abandoned. These thoughts are powerful chains. They bind your sense of value to your usefulness, and that's dangerous, because self-worth, true, unshakable self-worth, is not something you earn by being available. It's something you reclaim by loving yourself first. The approval addiction. When your availability is driven by a need for approval, you become trapped in a cycle. You give and give. You overextend. You sacrifice your needs. And you hope, desperately, to be seen, accepted, or loved. This is what psychologists sometimes call approval addiction, the compulsion to seek validation through pleasing others. But approval is fleeting. The harder you chase it, the more elusive it becomes. And ironically, this chase damages the very thing you're trying to build, a strong, confident self. The mirror effect, how others reflect your self-worth. Carl Jung taught us about the concept of the persona, the mask we wear to interact with the world. But behind that mask is a deeper truth. The way others treat you often mirrors how you treat yourself. If you undervalue yourself, if you overgive, if you say yes when you mean no, others pick up on that vibration, even if subconsciously. You may notice, people take your availability for granted. Your boundaries are ignored or pushed. Relationships feel one-sided or draining. This isn't a punishment. It's a reflection. Your availability is a signal to the world about how you expect to be treated. Reclaiming your worth through availability. The path to self-worth begins with reclaiming your availability, not by closing off, but by becoming. Conscious of why and how you are available. Ask yourself, am I saying yes out of love or fear? Do I feel resentment creeping in after being too available? Am I sacrificing my needs to keep someone else comfortable? Answer honestly, because the only way to heal this cycle is to set your availability on your own terms. This means saying no without guilt, taking time to recharge without apology, asking for what you need in relationships. When you do this, you send a powerful message to yourself and others that your worth is not conditional. The gift of saying no is one of the most liberating words you can learn. It's a boundary and a love letter to yourself. Saying no doesn't mean you're selfish. It means you respect your limits. It means you value your energy. It means you believe you deserve to be treated well. The more you practice saying no, the stronger your sense of self-worth becomes. And when your self-worth strengthens, you'll find yourself naturally choosing availability that nourishes your soul rather than depletes it. The inner dialogue, from scarcity to abundance. Much of our struggle with availability is rooted in an internal dialogue of scarcity. If I don't say yes, opportunities will disappear. If I'm not always available, I'll be left alone. But what if you shifted your inner story? What if you told yourself, my worth is not measured by my availability. I am enough just as I am. Healthy relationships welcome my boundaries. This shift from scarcity to abundance changes everything. Suddenly, availability becomes a choice, not a chore. Love becomes a gift, not a transaction. And your sense of self-worth blooms. Seeing yourself as whole, not just useful, the ultimate goal is to see yourself as whole, a person worthy of love and respect independent of your availability. This means recognizing that your needs matter. Understanding that you are more than your roles, helper, fixer, listener. Embracing your imperfections and limits. When you meet yourself with compassion and acceptance, you naturally become less reactive to others' demands. You create a life where being available is a joyful, balanced experience, not an exhausting obligation. Practical steps to strengthen self-worth. Through availability, reflect on your patterns. Notice when you say yes out of fear or obligation. Practice small boundaries. Start with little no's to build confidence. Journal your feelings. Write about how availability makes you feel, free or trapped. Seek supportive relationships. Surround yourself with people who respect your limits. Celebrate your choices. Acknowledge each time you choose yourself kindly and firmly. Your worth is your foundation. Remember this, your self-worth is the foundation on which all your relationships are built. When it's strong, your availability is a wellspring of generosity and joy. When it's weak, your availability can become a source of pain and depletion. So the question is not just how much you are available, but why you are available. And the answer starts within. Chapter 6. Solitude as a spiritual strategy. In a world that glorifies constant connection, endless availability, and non-stop productivity, the idea of stepping back into solitude can feel almost rebellious. Yet, solitude is one of the most profound and transformative strategies for deepening your self-awareness, reclaiming your energy, and living intentionally. In this chapter, we explore solitude not as loneliness, but as a spiritual strategy, a conscious, powerful practice that Carl Jung and many spiritual teachers have long embraced as essential for growth, healing, and clarity. The difference between solitude and loneliness. First, it's important to distinguish solitude from loneliness. Loneliness is a painful feeling of isolation, disconnection, and emptiness. Solitude is a chosen state of being alone, filled with presence, reflection, and inner peace. Solitude is the space where your soul can breathe, where the noise of the world quiets, and where your true self emerges. not shaped by others' expectations or demands. It is a sanctuary, not a punishment. Carl Jung's embrace of solitude. Carl Jung understood solitude as essential to psychological and spiritual health. He said, "Loneliness is the spiritual desert, but it is a necessary desert, a place to be and stay until one has made the necessary inner journey." Jung believed that only in solitude can we face the depths of our unconscious, encounter our shadow, and integrate the fragmented parts of ourselves. Solitude invites us to go inward and listen deeply to the whispers of our soul rather than the clamor of the crowd. Why solitude is a radical act. Today, in modern culture, being busy is often equated with being valuable. Being available is equated with being caring, and being connected is equated with being loved. But this mindset can trap you in a cycle of exhaustion, distraction, and surface-level relationships. Choosing solitude is radical because it says, "I will honor my need to disconnect from noise and distraction. I will honor my need to be whole before I am available." Solitude is not about withdrawing from the world forever. It's about returning to yourself so that you can engage more fully and authentically when you do connect. The spiritual benefits of solitude. When you make solitude a regular practice, you unlock profound spiritual gifts, clarity of mind. In silence and stillness, your thoughts settle. You see more clearly what truly matters. Emotional integration. Without external distractions, you can feel your feelings fully, without judgment or avoidance. Creative inspiration. Solitude opens the doorway to imagination, insight, and fresh ideas. Deepened intuition. Your inner voice grows louder when you stop competing with external noise. Connection with the unconscious. Jung taught that solitude allows access to the unconscious, the hidden wellspring of wisdom and transformation. How solitude supports healthy availability. Paradoxically, by being alone, you become more available, but in a new way. When you rest and recharge in solitude, your presence becomes richer and fuller. You are no longer giving from emptiness but from abundance. Your boundaries become clearer, and your yes carries more meaning. In fact, solitude helps you avoid burnout, reduce reactive behavior, cultivate patience and compassion. Show up more authentically for yourself and others. Practical ways to cultivate solitude. You don't have to retreat to a remote monastery to experience the power of solitude. Here are some accessible ways to bring solitude into your daily life. Create quiet moments daily. Even 5 to 10 minutes of silence, without devices or distractions, can reset your nervous system. Go for solo walks in nature. Nature is one of the most powerful environments to deepen solitude and presence. Practice mindfulness or meditation. These practices anchor you in the present moment and cultivate inner stillness. Set no contact periods. Intentionally disconnect from phones, social media, or work emails. Journal your inner thoughts. Writing without judgment is a way to explore your solitude and deepen self-awareness. Overcoming fear of being alone. Many people resist solitude because it brings up fears. Fear of facing painful feelings. Fear of feeling abandoned or invisible. Fear of missing out or losing connection. These fears are natural but often rooted in old patterns of avoidance and conditioned discomfort. With silence, the invitation is to lean into the discomfort gently, with curiosity and compassion. Remember, growth and healing often happen in the tension between fear and courage. Each time you choose solitude, you strengthen your capacity to be with yourself, and that is a sacred skill. Solitude as a gateway to wholeness. Ultimately, solitude is about coming home to yourself. It is the sacred pause that allows you to meet your shadow with kindness, reconnect with your values, align with your deepest truth. Cultivate a relationship with your inner self. In this quiet, powerful space, you realize that you are not your availability. You are a complex, radiant being deserving of love and respect, whether you are available or not. Integrating solitude into your life. As you continue your journey of reclaiming your energy and self-worth, consider making solitude a spiritual strategy. Schedule it like a meeting. Treat solitude as a non-negotiable appointment with yourself. Honor it without guilt. Solitude is not selfish. It is necessary. Use it as a reset button. Whenever you feel overwhelmed or depleted, retreat to solitude to recalibrate. Final reflection. Imagine a life where your availability flows naturally, from a place of fullness, not obligation, where solitude is not loneliness but a sanctuary, where pulling back is not rejection, but restoration, where your energy is a precious gift you give consciously and joyfully. This is the power of solitude as a spiritual strategy. It is your secret weapon for living a balanced, authentic, and deeply fulfilling life. Chapter 7. Relationships that transform. Not all connections are meant to last. We often enter relationships with hopes, expectations, and dreams. We assume that every connection we make, whether with friends, family, colleagues, or lovers, is meant to last forever. But what if this is not the case? What if some relationships are not designed for permanence but for transformation? In this chapter, we'll explore the idea that not all relationships are meant to stay in our lives indefinitely. Instead, some are meant to teach us to catalyze growth, and then to gently release us into the next chapter of our journey. The myth of forever. From a young age, we are often taught that relationships are supposed to last. Friends forever, till death do us part. While stability and commitment are beautiful when healthy, clinging to every relationship at all costs can create hidden suffering. Trying to force connection to last beyond its natural life cycle leads to emotional exhaustion, stagnation, unhealthy attachment, loss of personal growth. True connection isn't about permanence, it's about resonance. Carl Jung and the role of relationships in growth. Carl Jung understood relationships as mirrors reflecting parts of ourselves, especially the parts we have yet to accept or integrate. Each person who crosses our path plays a role in our inner development, consciously or unconsciously. Some relationships highlight our shadow aspects, our unhealed wounds, our deepest desires, our potential for transformation. Jung believed that sometimes these relationships must be temporary. They serve as catalysts to awaken us, challenge us, or help us heal. When availability meets transformation, what happens to your availability when a relationship is meant to transform, not last? You may find yourself feeling drawn and repelled simultaneously, experiencing intense emotions, joy, anger, confusion, questioning your boundaries more than usual. This is normal. Transformation relationships often demand more emotional energy and awareness. They invite you to be fully present, but also to recognize when it's time to step back. Being available in these relationships doesn't mean being endlessly accessible. It means being conscious and intentional with your energy. Recognizing relationships that need to end. How do you know when a relationship has fulfilled its purpose and it's time to let go? Here are some signs. The connection feels increasingly draining or toxic. You feel stuck or unable to grow while holding on. Communication breaks down repeatedly without resolution. You experience repeated patterns of conflict or pain. There's a strong inner sense of disconnection or resistance. Letting go isn't a failure. It's an act of courage and self-respect. The power of release. Ending a relationship, whether romantic, friendship, or professional, can feel like loss. But it's also a form of release, a letting go of what no longer serves you. Release opens space for new opportunities, fresh connections, renewed energy, greater alignment with your true self. In fact, releasing what's no longer aligned can be one of the most liberating steps you take on your journey. Healthy boundaries in transformational relationships. Setting clear boundaries in relationships that challenge and transform you is essential. Boundaries protect your energy and sanity. They help you stay grounded amid emotional turbulence. Examples of boundaries include limiting contact frequency, saying no to emotional overload, taking time to process feelings alone, communicating your needs honestly. Remember, boundaries are acts of love both for yourself and for the relationship, the gift of gratitude. Even when relationships end, cultivating gratitude for the lessons learned shifts your perspective. You might say to yourself, "Thank you for showing me my strength. Thank you for teaching me about my needs. Thank you for helping me face my fears." Gratitude transforms endings into blessings. It turns separation into growth. Availability as an evolving choice. Your availability in relationships is not static. It evolves as you grow, learn, and heal. You might notice some people require more space. Others invite you to deepen connection. Some relationships naturally fade, while others deepen. This dynamic process is healthy and natural. Being available doesn't mean sacrificing yourself. It means choosing how and with whom you share your precious energy. The dance of connection and release. Imagine relationships as a dance, sometimes close, sometimes apart, sometimes intertwined, sometimes separate. The rhythm changes with time and circumstance. By honoring this dance, you cultivate presence when together, accept distance without fear, trust the natural flow of connection. This perspective frees you from the need to control outcomes and opens you to genuine intimacy and growth. Final thoughts. Not all connections are meant to last forever. Some are designed to transform you briefly, deeply, powerfully. By understanding this, you reclaim your availability as a gift, not a burden. You learn to honor the people who stay, cherish the lessons from those who leave, and protect your energy through conscious choice. This chapter is a reminder. Relationships are not just about staying, they're about growing. Chapter 8. Boundaries are not barriers. They're invitations to respect in our journey of reclaiming availability and honoring self-worth. One concept emerges as a powerful ally: boundaries. For many, the word boundary can feel heavy, even threatening. Boundaries are often misunderstood as walls that block others out, barriers that create distance and division. But in truth, boundaries are something very different. They are invitations to respect, acts of self-love, and the foundation for healthy, authentic relationships. In this chapter, we will explore why boundaries matter, how they work, and how to set them with confidence and compassion. The misunderstanding of boundaries. First, let's clear up some common misconceptions about boundaries. Boundaries are not selfish. Setting limits does not mean you don't care about others. It means you care about yourself enough to protect your energy. Boundaries are not rejection. Saying no or stepping back is not pushing people away. It's inviting healthier interactions. Boundaries are not punishment. Boundaries are not about controlling or hurting others. They're about honoring your needs. These myths often keep people stuck in unhealthy availability patterns, leading to burnout, resentment, and blurred lines. Why? Boundaries matter. Boundaries are essential because they define your personal space. Physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual space all need clear limits to thrive. Preserve your energy. Without boundaries, your energy is drained by overcommitment and people-pleasing. Foster mutual respect. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. Create clarity. Boundaries communicate your values and priorities clearly. Promote autonomy. Boundaries help both you and others maintain independence within relationships. Boundaries as invitations to respect. Think of boundaries not as walls, but as doors with signs on them. Each boundary is a message that says, "This is how I need to be treated. This is what I value. This is what I am comfortable with." When you set a boundary, you are inviting others to honor your limits. You are creating a space where respect, trust, and authenticity can flourish. Common types of boundaries. Boundaries come in many forms. Some of the most important include physical boundaries, your personal space and body autonomy. Emotional boundaries, protecting your feelings and emotional energy. Time boundaries, how and when you share your time and availability. Mental boundaries, guarding your thoughts, beliefs, and opinions. Digital boundaries. Managing your online presence and communication. Identifying which boundaries feel unclear or weak in your life is a critical step toward empowerment. How to set boundaries with confidence. Setting boundaries takes practice. Here are some simple steps to help you get started. Know your limits. Reflect honestly on what feels comfortable and what feels like too much. Communicate clearly. Use I statements like, "I need time to recharge before I respond," or "I'm not comfortable discussing this topic." Be consistent. Consistency teaches others that your boundaries are serious and non-negotiable. Expect resistance. Some people may test or push back against your boundaries. Stand firm with kindness. Practice self-compassion. Setting boundaries is a learning process. Be gentle with yourself as you grow. Overcoming guilt and fear. Many hesitate to set boundaries because they fear being seen as difficult or rude, losing relationships, feeling selfish or uncaring. But remember, your needs matter. When you say yes to yourself, you are actually saying yes to healthier, more honest connections. Guilt is a natural feeling during change, but it diminishes as you experience the benefits of boundaries. More energy, less resentment, deeper respect from others' boundaries. Strengthen relationships. Healthy boundaries don't push people away. They bring the right people closer. They create safer spaces where vulnerability is possible, because everyone knows what is okay and what isn't. Relationships with clear boundaries are more balanced, more honest, more fulfilling boundaries. Help you be fully present, not depleted or overwhelmed, when you choose to be available. Practical boundary examples. Here are some examples you might relate to. Turning off your phone during family time. Saying no to extra work when your schedule is full. Asking for alone time when you feel overwhelmed. Refusing to engage in conversations that feel disrespectful or toxic. Setting limits on how much emotional energy you spend on someone else's problems. Each boundary is a gift you give yourself, and by extension, to the relationship. Your boundaries are your birthright. At the heart of it, boundaries are about claiming your birthright to dignity and respect. You deserve relationships that honor your limits. You deserve peace and balance. You deserve to be treated with kindness, including by yourself. By setting boundaries, you reclaim your power and redefine your availability on your own terms. Final reflection. Imagine a world where boundaries are celebrated as acts of courage and respect, where saying no is met with understanding, not judgment, where your availability flows freely, grounded in self-love. This is not a distant dream. It begins with the simple, profound choice to honor yourself. Boundaries are not barriers. They are bridges to deeper respect, connection, and freedom. Chapter 9. Magnetic Energy. The law of selective presence. Imagine walking into a room and feeling an invisible force drawing people toward you, not because you're loud or flashy, but because of the calm, confident energy you radiate. This is the power of magnetic energy, a subtle yet undeniable presence that attracts the right people, opportunities, and experiences into your life. But magnetic energy isn't about being everywhere all the time. It's about the law of selective presence, choosing where, when, and with whom you invest your energy to create the strongest, most meaningful connections. In this chapter, we'll dive deep into how cultivating magnetic energy through selective presence can transform your relationships, your work, and your entire life. What is magnetic energy? Magnetic energy is a combination of self-confidence, clarity, and calm that naturally draws others toward you. It's authentic, rooted in your true self, not a performance. Focused, directed, intentional, not scattered. Balanced, open, and inviting, yet grounded and centered. People with magnetic energy don't chase attention, they naturally attract it. Their presence communicates that they value themselves and their time, which in turn encourages others to value them too. The law of selective presence explained. The law of selective presence means that your energy is a precious resource. Just like money or time, it's finite and needs to be invested wisely. Selective presence involves being fully present only where your energy is truly welcomed and appreciated, choosing environments, relationships, and tasks that align with your values and goals, withdrawing from situations that drain or deplete you. This law teaches that your availability is a form of power. When used selectively, it becomes magnetic rather than exhausting. Why selective presence increases your magnetic energy? When you try to be everywhere and available to everyone, your energy becomes diluted and your presence weakens. But when you choose where to show up and where not to, you create a sense of mystery and value around your presence. Communicate clear boundaries that inspire respect. Avoid burnout and maintain emotional resilience. Selective presence makes your interactions meaningful rather than mechanical. People feel your authentic interest and attention, which deepens connection. How to cultivate magnetic energy. Here are practical ways to develop magnetic energy through selective presence. Know your priorities. Clarify what truly matters in your life. What relationships, projects, and environments align with your core values. Practice mindful presence. When you are with someone or doing something, be fully there, free of distractions and mental chatter. Limit overcommitment. Learn to say no gracefully. Recognize that saying no to some things means saying yes to more meaningful ones. Cultivate inner calm. Magnetic energy flows from inner balance. Develop daily practices such as meditation, breathing exercises, or quiet reflection. Trust your intuition. Tune into how people and situations make you feel. Let your instincts guide where you invest your presence. The role of energy boundaries. Selective presence is closely tied to energy boundaries. Energy boundaries protect you from emotional drain, toxic relationships, overwhelm, and stress. By managing your energy boundaries, you ensure that your magnetic energy is preserved and amplified, not depleted. Magnetic energy in relationships. Magnetic energy means showing up authentically and fully when you choose to be present, allowing space for both closeness and independence, attracting people who respect your boundaries and value your presence. People with magnetic energy inspire attraction without neediness. They create relationships based on mutual respect and genuine interest, rather than obligation. Magnetic energy. In professional life, selective presence in your career means focusing on tasks and collaborations that ignite your passion and align with your strengths. It means saying no to distractions and low-value activities, being present in meetings and projects that matter, building a professional reputation as someone reliable, focused, and intentional. This approach naturally draws opportunities and alliances toward you. The power of absence. An essential part of magnetic energy is the power of absence. When you pull back or disappear from certain people or situations, it can create space for reflection and growth, increase appreciation for your presence, shift dynamics that were unbalanced or unhealthy. Absence is not rejection, it's a strategic pause that enhances your magnetic pull. Signs you need to practice. Selective presence. You might need to focus on selective presence if you notice feeling constantly drained or overwhelmed, difficulty saying no or setting limits, feeling invisible or taken for granted, relationships or projects feeling forced or one-sided. Recognizing these signs is the first step toward reclaiming your energy and magnetic power. Final reflection. Magnetic energy is not about being popular or liked by everyone. It's about being true to yourself, choosing your presence wisely and respecting your energy as a valuable resource. The law of selective presence invites you to become a magnet, not by trying harder, but by showing up with intention, clarity, and authenticity. When you master this art, you don't just change how others see you, you transform how you experience your own life. Chapter 10. When you withdraw, you awaken. Withdrawal is often misunderstood. In a culture that prizes constant action, availability, and connection, stepping back can feel like giving up. being distant, or even failing. But withdrawal, true, conscious withdrawal, is not a sign of weakness or avoidance. It is a profound act of awakening. When you withdraw, you don't disappear. You reappear, clearer, stronger, and more aligned with your authentic self. In this chapter, we'll explore why withdrawal is a powerful catalyst for self-discovery, healing, and transformation. The paradox of withdrawal. First glance, withdrawal seems like retreat. But paradoxically, it is a courageous advance inward. It's in the moments of quiet solitude, when you step away from the noise and demands of the outside world, that your true self begins to emerge. Withdrawal invites you to slow down, reflect, deeply reconnect with your inner voice. This inward movement awakens awareness that busyness and constant availability often mask. Why do we fear withdrawal? Most of us resist withdrawal because it triggers uncomfortable feelings. Fear of being alone, fear of missing out, FOMO, fear of losing control or relevance, fear of rejection or abandonment. But these fears are shadows, echoes of outdated beliefs about worth and belonging. True awakening happens when you face these fears head-on, with compassion and curiosity. Withdrawal is a tool for self-awareness. When you withdraw consciously, you create sacred space for self-awareness. In this space, you can observe your thoughts without judgment, feel your emotions without distraction, notice patterns that keep you stuck, discover what truly nourishes your soul. This heightened awareness is the foundation for authentic change. Jungian insights on withdrawal. Carl Jung himself valued withdrawal as a vital part of individuation, the process of becoming whole. He understood that we need to separate from collective expectations to hear our unique inner voice. Withdrawal allows the unconscious to surface, revealing hidden truths. It is in solitude that creativity and spiritual growth flourish. Jung's teachings remind us that withdrawal is not isolation. It is the gateway to integration. The role of boundaries in withdrawal. Withdrawal is supported by healthy boundaries. By setting limits on external demands, you protect your inner space and energy. Boundaries make withdrawal possible without guilt or conflict. They allow you to say, I need time to myself. I am not available right now. I am choosing to focus on my well-being. These declarations are acts of self-respect and awakening. The awakening process withdrawal often unfolds in stages. Recognition, realizing that constant availability is unsustainable. Resistance, experiencing discomfort and fear as you pull back. Reflection, entering quiet space to explore your inner world. Renewal, emerging with greater clarity, strength, and purpose. Each stage brings you closer to your authentic self. Practical steps to conscious withdrawal, to awaken. Through withdrawal, try these steps. Schedule quiet time. Dedicate moments daily for solitude and reflection. Disconnect digitally. Turn off phones and social media periodically. Journal your experience. Write about feelings and insights that arise. Practice mindfulness or meditation. Anchor yourself in present awareness. Seek support if needed. A therapist or coach can guide you through the process. Remember, withdrawal is not about escape, but about returning home to yourself. Common misconceptions about withdrawal. Withdrawal is not loneliness, though it may feel like it initially. Withdrawal is not avoidance, but conscious presence with yourself. Withdrawal is not giving up on relationships, but stepping back to heal and grow. Understanding these nuances helps dissolve shame and guilt around stepping back. Awakening through withdrawal in relationships. In relationships, withdrawal can be a powerful signal. It tells others and yourself that you need space to rebalance, reflect, realign your needs and boundaries. This space often leads to deeper connection because it's rooted in authenticity rather than exhaustion or resentment. Thy freedom found in withdrawal. Withdrawal liberates you from the pressure to perform, please, or be constantly on. It opens the door to self-acceptance, clarity about your path, a renewed sense of energy and creativity. When you allow yourself this sacred pause, you awaken to a fuller, richer experience of life. Final thoughts. Withdrawal is not the end. It is the beginning of a new chapter, one of awakening and empowerment. By embracing withdrawal consciously, you honor your inner truth, protect your energy, and invite profound transformation. This awakening frees you to live on your own terms, with presence, power, and peace. Final reflection and encouragement. As we come to the close of this journey together, it's important to pause and reflect on everything we have explored. The profound power that emerges when you stop being endlessly available, when you reclaim your energy, your boundaries, and your presence. This book has been an invitation to step into a new way of being, one that honors your worth, respects your needs, and values your time. It's an invitation to awaken to yourself through conscious withdrawal, selective presence, and the courage to say no. The gift of choosing availability. Availability is not a passive state, but a powerful choice. It is the conscious decision to give your attention, your energy, and your presence where it truly matters. Not scattered thinly, but focused deeply. When you stop being available to everything and everyone, you stop diluting your light and begin shining more brightly in the areas that align with your soul. You are not alone in this journey. Remember, this path can feel challenging. The pull to please, to be needed, and to avoid conflict is deeply ingrained in many of us. You may face resistance from others or even from within yourself, but you are not alone. Many have walked this path before you and discovered a life richer in meaning, peace, and authentic connection. You have the strength and wisdom inside you to navigate this transformation. The power of self-respect. Self-respect is the foundation of all healthy relationships, with yourself and with others. By honoring your limits and setting boundaries, you teach the world how to treat you. You cultivate magnetic energy that draws in respect, kindness, and understanding. Your presence becomes a gift, one you give freely, not out of obligation, but from a place of genuine choice. Celebrate every step. Forward transformation rarely happens overnight. It is a process, a series of small steps that add up to profound change. Celebrate every moment you choose yourself, every no spoken with kindness, every boundary honored, every moment of quiet reflection, every act of withdrawal that leads you closer to your authentic self. These are victories. Look ahead with hope and confidence. As you move forward, remember that your availability is your power. You have learned to wield it wisely. You have embraced the law of selective presence. You have seen how withdrawal can be a sacred act of awakening. Carry this knowledge with you as a beacon in your daily life. Let it guide your choices, your relationships, and your self-care. An invitation. I invite you to continue this journey of self-discovery and growth. Be patient with yourself. Be courageous in setting boundaries. Be generous with your presence, but only when it serves your highest good. The world needs your authentic light, the light that shines brightest when you stop being endlessly available and start being intentionally present. Thank you. Thank you for trusting this process. Thank you for choosing to honor yourself. And thank you for allowing this book to be part of your awakening. Your journey toward true freedom, respect, and magnetic presence has just begun, and it holds infinite possibility.